Everyone, how you doing? Thursday, one of my best days of the week. I always liked Thursdays. Good things always happen because I always like to wrap up my week on a Thursday so I can ease in through the next 3 days. So, good Lord, a lot of y'all here. Good to see everyone. Mad Hatter, good to see you. Can't wait to get you on. We're going to get you on here. This dude is going to be amazing. Big D, hello. How are you? Good to see you. Well, there's 13 of us. That's a good number. Oh, there we go. Now we're starting to do quantum physics. So, well, welcome. Thought I'd stop in today. Tonight I do my the Steiger Perspective over on the Artist First Network at 8 o'clock. Mountain time, 10 o'clock East Coast time, and I have know what time it is on GMT time. So anyway, how is everyone? Boy, we're growing quickly in here. So someone said, what kind of tea? I drink primarily Bengal spice tea, and I will add sometimes some cloves. I'll add some cinnamon. Always get raw unfiltered honey, and cheers to everyone. Good. So, wanted to cover something. I was out this morning and began to walk. It's still cold here, so you take your shoes off. You can only do it for a little bit, but it occurred to me that we live in an electric universe. Everything around us is electric. And if you have electricity, you will have magnetism. Thus, we have electromagnetism. You can buy instruments that can monitor what your electromagnetic field is, EMFs. We know that if humans, I'm sure it may be the same with animals, that when they get into intense EMF fields, they have a tendency to, well, either have more of a paranormal experience, or, and I hadn't thought about this, now they would sign it off that, you know, the brain is basically getting hit by all these electrons, and thus you'll start having feelings, you know, maybe someone's watching you, someone's touched you, and that's how they just kind of dismiss it off. Hello, Brandon. Hello, Cheesesteak. How you doing? Paul, Warrior Princess, good afternoon. Patricia, good to see you. Jeannie, good to see you. Jerry, hello. Making wine. Okay, excellent. Hey, Bug Out Brad, welcome all the moderators. Thank you, folks. Really appreciate it. Kenneth, good to see you. So anyway, give me 1 second here. I want to undo that. There we go. It occurred to me that since when we get in these intense EMF fields, I wonder if it's really activating the latent psychic awarenesses, that sixth sense, and whatever that entails. And then it occurred to me that, well, I live here in the Front Range in the Denver area. I don't live in Denver itself, but in the Denver area. The mountains that I get to see every morning, which are quite beautiful, are still a pretty interesting phenomenon. We have this Rocky Mountain ridge that goes up through the what we call the Mountain West out here. And it's really quite amazing. I remember when I drove up here from Austin, and I moved from Austin, Texas up to Denver. And as I was driving up through the panhandle of Texas, and if any of you have ever done that, it's actually 281. And as you, excuse me a second. Actually, I had some incense going and it was like really going. It's like, all right, back off, Jack. You ever walked into a room that someone who really wears a lot of like men's cologne? Boom, you go, man. Anyway, I digress. So as you drive up and you get from Texas into New Mexico, I didn't know this. And you're driving along and the topography begins to change. The landscape, and you can see 30, 40, 50 miles sometimes. It's just the vistas are that great. And as you're driving, you come across this slight curve, and as you look down, there's this volcano right there in New Mexico. A volcano. Now they call it a cinder cone volcano. And so I'm looking at this, and as you get to where you can actually pull off and hike out there, the first thing you see, by the way, in the parking lot are these signs, warning, rattlesnakes in abundance. Yeah, well, that is went as far as I wanted to see the cone volcano. But as I could look back, you could see at one time where there was a lot of volcanic activity in this area of the United States. And the Rocky Mountains themselves is that typically you would see the younger rock at the base, the older rock at the top. Well, not so with the Rocky Mountains. It's reverse. And up in Montana, if any of you ever want to take that drive up there, which I have, you can actually see how the strata has somehow been inverted. So back to the point of what we're talking about today. It hit me this morning, then that means the Earth itself is a living entity that would also have, like I would have, a magnetic field. I mean, we all have them. We generate about 20 watts of electricity when we're awake. Seems to be the full time. Now, I sleep very hot. Who knows? I think mine may go up. But what I'm trying to point out is that we're dealing with magnetic fields, each of us. So as I'm walking along, I begin to think about magnetic ley lines. And I want to share some things with you just to show you what we're talking about here. So allow me to go over here, and I'm going to share some things because this is really cool when I looked at this. So give me 1 second. There we go. All right. So many of you probably have heard or seen the Oregon Vortex. A lot of comments on this one, debate. Is it real? Is it not? What they do know is that there is some sort of an anomaly. They've proven that. When you get right in the center of where this vortex begins to come in. Now, the one experiment they did, which I thought was really interesting, was with horses. And in this case, the two people were running down this trailway, and horses were almost up to a full gallop, and then boom, they hit this area where this Gold Hill, Oregon is. So there was something there that those horses were not going to have anything to do with. The equine turned it and headed the other direction. They now know is that they have done it with cameras and they don't know what's going on, but there is a shift in height. They measured it and it's exactly 16 degrees. but you're only standing on a 3-degree plane. So that one tells us that there's something going on. The other experiment they did here was that they made a pendulum. And in the pendulum, once they found the center, it's always interesting about gravity. Gravity is a constant no matter where it is. That's an interesting, and we'll talk more of that with Dr. Albers. So when they got this, what they did is that they put a magnet in this casing, and that served as the pendulum bob. And a normal pendulum, when it's let go, would eventually find the magnetic field. Once it finds the magnetic field, it will then find the gravitational field. And as we all know, it'll eventually stop. The only problem here in this area is that the pendulum started going in the normal direction, and then it got caught up into this weird, and it wasn't the loop that it should have gotten into an ecliptical was not. It was at a defined about 27 degrees. And so we know something's up with that. And then I looked at this, and lo and behold, there is a website where you can go, and you can see it's vortexhunter.com. Now, who would have ever thought, right? Go to any place you want. Here you can see Bridge Cage Theater, Tombstone, Arizona, Ghost. Lots here in, well, let's just blow it up. I think we can get the United States in here a little closer. So here you go. We know Sedona. Up here in the Northeast, very interesting. I'm going to show you a map here in a little bit. So we can find these anomalies. And again, vortexhunter.com. Huffington Post had this article out last July. The 8 most energetic places on Earth you can go to reconnect and recharge your internal power grid. Power grid. It gets weird, folks. Let's go. All right. Then you got this one. This is what you can see is a Bible eclipse or something, 10 vile vortices. Vile. Well, if it's vile, I wonder if there is something that is virile. Wouldn't that be the antithesis of viral? Vile? I don't know. We'll put that out there. Here we go. We're going to talk about this one. Harmonious Earth, Earth's chakra points, and vortices. Now, this is really interesting. We're going to talk more about this because, and I'm thinking about actually doing some trips, finding these points. The Northwest part of the United States here for us has always been England. We're going to find out that whole British Isles up there. It's like the center of the Earth. Interesting how a lot of science fiction has been written on this. Hawaii has a special place. Here's over here. I think that this is Chile, South Africa. So interesting on this one. This one here talks about the Earth vortices, the ley lines, and tectonic plates, which would make sense. I mean, the plates are simply floating on, a bed of magma, molten rock, or so they say. And here it talks about the major vortices: Avebury, England, Ayers Rock, Australia, Bimini off Florida's coast, Calgary, Canada, Easter Island, Chile, Nepal, Machu Picchu, I think that is the Andes. Okay, Philippines, Santo Domingo. Strange power down there. Sedona and Tibet. And then you have the areas that have these minor vortices, right? So then you get into this one here. This is vortexhunters.com. And this is a website dedicated to actually going out there, apparently investigating these vortexes. And as you begin to study this, there are central points onto the earth that seem to be, grids, intersections, apexes. But there also seems to be this phenomenon that due to changing parts of the earth itself, that vortexes can pop up and pop out. So interesting, isn't it not? Just thought I'd share that with you just to let you know that, well, there is a science behind this. Yeah, Colorado. I contend, and I'm just reading, who wrote that? Bug Out Brad. You're absolutely right. Hi, Angela. How are you doing? So Colorado, Denver. Denver's got some strange energy. I mean, it really does. As I've become much more sensitized to the abilities that we all have, call it intuition, call it deductive reasoning, call it telepathic, whatever it is, it's there. So Denver, strange energy. Tesla was drawn here. He was drawn to Colorado Springs. There was something about this area that Tesla knew. We're going to talk about that here as well. And then as I began to find out, it's a little bit different than what we may have thought. So give me 1 second here. So, I like to do PowerPoints. It's the best tool for communicating complex thoughts into simple chunks. Electricity, magnetism, vortexes, ley lines, ascension. This is what came to me this morning. Call it a download, call it spirit guides, whatever. And what I got in my mind's eye, I saw this, and I see in colors. I can see in patterns, and many times they have numbers that are attached to them. And what I saw was that these are interwoven. You can say energies, but I think that they're more than that. They are energies no matter what, but they each have unique personalities. Let me say that. And they can and do in thought exist independently. But once thought has been given forth, they begin to have the ability to interact. And I don't know if this is just the way it's always been. Who knows? Could be. So this is what came to me. There's one way in. There's only one way out. Something happens to all too many. This is a grid. Now, grids if you look at things, I study World War II history. In fact, I study a lot of history wars, but every battlefield is a grid. If you're a treasure hunter, every map is a grid. If you're doing rescues, everything is done on a grid. And I began to think about this. One way in, one way out, but so many of us get trapped. Think about this. Isn't this kind of what reincarnation is about? Isn't this about the whole idea of every religion, every theology, ideology, philosophy? You go to the right, you go to the, no, seriously. Yeah, it seems to be all based in this. And no matter how you take the derivative out of whichever point of view you're looking at it, the real goal is to get the hell out. You know, and as you ascend and as we find our way out, we'll meet other entities out there and we're going to say, holy crap, what a trip. So, excuse me. So when you think about this, then this is really where the four elements come in. Well, fire, air, water, earth. I think each has a energy, each has a frequency. Within each, there are harmonics, subharmonics that can be equated to matter. They can interact, they can be independent. And I began to think, well, this really kind of dictates a lot about what we do. So I came up with this. In 1922, Alfred Watkins claimed to have discovered a system of straight lines that connected all the sacred centers of England. He termed this system ley lines. These lines are now called energy leys. According to David Cohen, standing stones emit energies which form these energy leys and transverse the country, forming a highly sophisticated web of natural earth energies. Others see ley lines as the essential structure of the etheric body of the earth, being lines of earth energy, like acupuncture meridians. The life force of the earth radiates from the leys and ley centers or chakras. Well, now this is getting really interesting. And there's been many, many smarter people than me that have spent their life energies, their essence in mapping this out, showing it. So oddly enough, it's updated. Australia, for instance, is one continent besides New Zealand that is the fastest moving continent right now on planet Earth. However, because of tectonic drift and because of the changing magnetic field of the Earth, the ley lines move. An area that may not have been in a direct path of this energy today in 2018 very well could be. Maybe it's why some of us are feeling or becoming much more sensitive. It's something's happening. We know that. If I did just from what I studied in statistics and just used our community in a statistical poll, I think we would be absolutely surprised. And I judge it by the emails. I continue. Ancient knowledge. It was Plato who said, the world, when viewed from above, resembles a ball sewn from 12 pieces of skin. Now, as a true lover of philosophy, in which many of you are, this is one of those that has great mind coitus. How did he know? How could he have known? And so when you begin to look at this, it gets even stranger, because it turns out that militaries, governments, are very interested in this. They spend large sums of money tracking, identifying, establishing these apparent lines, these intersections, these collection points. Call them what you will. The Russians, great mathematician, came up with the idea that the Earth could actually be subdivided into 12 cubes or other variations of that. Now, this is really strange. I didn't have enough time to go out there, but I have seen pictures of the Earth like this, apparently from satellite data. Don't know. So what we do know, science, not myth, not conjecture, that there is a planetary grid system. It exists. And evidence would point out that apparently the ancients knew about it. The Egyptians, Mesopotamians, Babylonians, Chaldeans. I mean, I could go all the way back to the Sumerians, and who knows how far it goes back behind there. This is, if you want to take it in one view, one of those great cover-ups. The fact that you could have free energy powering this planet. No fluorocarbons, no byproducts of burning fossil fuels, none of that. You literally could have free energy. Because, as I said, the ancients knew this. Now, when you look at this map, isn't it interesting where we start seeing Easter Island? You know, the myth of the mystery of those monoliths. If as in fact there is this existing power grid that has existed on our planet, think about it. Now, the Earth has its own nervous system and arteries of circulation. Many cultures have developed systems for working with these energy lines. In Europe, research into ley lines began in England and Germany in the 20s and 30s. The Chinese developed the art of feng shui. Australian Aborigines have their song lines. These lines have varying lengths and widths. In the human body, there are microscopic blood vessels and large aorta heart artery. Equivalent to the Earth, to the aorta, are the two great ley lines which encircle the planet. It goes on to say, on a flat map of the world, these two circles form the images of the infinity symbol, or a figure 8 tipped on its side. These rivers of life connect many of the great continental sacred sites to each other. They flow over land and water and are not obstructed by human boundaries. They are four great spinner wheels which resemble pulleys, around which the two leys move. The major chakras on these lines are known as driver wheels, as they drive the force in either direction along the dragon paths. There you go. You can say what you want, but my reality is forming that this is ancient knowledge that elites have known about, taken advantage of, probably have profited greatly from it. And so when you begin to lay it out over these other sites, excuse me, it's weird. Look at that. I don't know. Pretty odd. So we can see now that there are similarities in ley lines and earth chakra lines. Now they grid out the planet. And wherever you see these dark intersections on the grid, those are concentration points. Heavy black dots are power points. So now we start getting into sacred geometry. So we get the iso ascenderon. I screwed that up, but anyway, go ahead and put it in your comment section because I love you anyway. But back seriously, it fits into this grid. And then you get these areas known as the triangles. Bermuda triangles, Devil Triangle. Again, maybe they're not triangles at all. Maybe they're in fact electromagnetic vortexes. Don't know. So I got this one here because this gets into the Earth's heart chakra, which is located in one of the most famous holy places on Earth, marked by the centers known as Somerset, Shaftesbury, Dorset, and Glastonbury, England. It is represented by the color green. This site is one of the oldest continuously inhabited places on Earth. Glastonbury Tor, an ancient sacred mound, has been called the heart of England. It has been the site of numerous legends going back through medieval times and continuing today. This area is also known for the frequent crop circles that appear here. Somerset has been the location of crop circles conferences, and the area is a meeting spot for crop circle researchers and investigators. So America, we have our specific ley lines. And it's quite fascinating, again, as we begin to see changes in the Earth's magnetosphere. It's going to have it down here as well. So grid yourself out, right? Because this is how our government, military does it. You can go down further, and what I contend is that there is a direct correlation that no matter where you are, off, near, or on a grid, it's still connected. When I design software systems, platforms, if there comes a problem in the design, we do in the business, you just simply look at it, you do a workaround, form a node, reverse engineer the problem, and you work around it. Why? Because it's all on a grid. It's all connected. It's where you get redundancy in. So to me, this kind of made sense. And then when you begin to look at places right here in the United States, Sedona, Arizona, is known for this. Powers are strong here. I've been there. And there's more and more we're learning about the United States. You know, most of the history is written on the other side of the world. The history on this side of the world, particularly North and South America, is really relatively new in the larger scheme of things. But that's can't be, because you're saying basically that there was nothing here. Well, it doesn't turn out that at all. There is a theory that I am working on that this may have been the home of the Nephilim. And that because of the migration of the species of humanoids, Homo sapiens, as they began to bridge across, that it chased them further and further down into where they ended up in Patagonia, or so the story goes. Even in New York City, there are specific ley lines. Now think about this. If you could get really sensitive to this, what this could do to your health. I think you could turn to your advantage. I think you could draw upon it. Find the healing ley lines, because I think we tap into it when we're meditating. Some of us are better than others, but I think indeed that this is what's happening. Now, I'm going to talk to Dr. Albers about this one, because when we begin to think about water, water is life, water is energy, water is a transporter of electrons, energy. You may be living on a natural aquifer, and if so, strong energy. That's why dowsing was so popular and still is, regardless of what modern society or science says. It works for the most part. It does. I think it's just the person who's reading the dowsing rods that has the problem. I don't think it's the rods themselves. But nevertheless, and then you think about the increased amount of cosmic rays that are hitting our planet. Those are photons. They are energy. It's hitting our planet. And if you're hitting a substance like water, charging it, imagine what it's doing to us. And so they call this the magnomechanical and magnetotechnical chemical effect. In a strong magnetic field, the diametric, magnetic, and paramagnetic molecules orientate themselves to minimize their free energy. In a non-homogeneous fields with big gradients, the translation movement, and it just goes on. Well, I'm going to let Claudia deal with this, because I think this is something that she will find interesting, and I'll be curious to see, because it's the last one that gets me. Magnetic stimulation of the brain can be used both in diagnostics and therapy. So, medical science is starting to look at this and going, well, maybe there's something here. This is what Tesla, I think, found out. Right there in New Jersey, that whole area there. That's why he came out here to Colorado and conducting one of his major experiments down in Colorado Springs. And then I began to think about, okay, what if you use these elements and begin to open up vortexes? In the last couple of years, all over the world, we have seen pictures of this. Now, they tell us that this is merely rocket launches, missile launches. Okay, maybe. But there certainly seems to be something else going on. Because as I got to you earlier about the cosmic ray physics, there's something going on. I mean, you can look at the readings. The amount of cosmic rays we're absorbing today compared to 100 years ago, folks, is off the charts. And so, are we seeing manufactured vortexes? Are these naturally occurring? Are these a mode of possible communication and transportation? Is it possible that there is life forms that are more intelligent to us, that know how to open up vortices in distant worlds. You see, I don't think that humans are ever going to leave this planet. I just don't think so. I have come to the conclusion we were designed to stay here. These physical bodies will not survive in space, as much we would like to fantasize them. But I think that there is a way that we will get off this planet. So maybe it's really coming down to where we create our own vortex. Maybe that's the only way to go. I don't know. Give me 1 second here, folks. So there you go. There is my thoughts on the subject. What do y'all think? Lots of good comments. When I do those presentations, I can't see what's going on. But so work with me on this. As we begin to see there has to be a connection. Too many great minds have seen the similarities, have seen the connection. I read some of y'all's emails, and try to read all the emails. I don't respond to all of them. It's physically impossible. But many of you have some tremendous ideas. You know, I'm working on one right now that I believe that a propulsion system that so when I said that our bodies could never survive in space, the only way we're going to get out there is either by consciousness or creating artificial environments, biospheres, and do it in such a manner that would protect the essence of the consciousness of the individual. Now, I contend that there is a thing that I think possibly could be called psychic propulsion. You know, how fast can the speed of thought be? Is thought faster than the speed of light? People say, well, there's nothing faster than the speed of light. I don't think so. I don't think that's what Einstein said. I think his dilemma is how do you reach C? Now, there can be multiple C's after that, but how do you reach that? I don't know. But I do believe that I have one person who wrote me a beautiful, beautiful mini dissertation on, you know, we all saw the movie Avatars. Is Avatars the future? You know, I don't know. I don't know if we can actually physically contain consciousness. I think it's the most greatest mystery that these bodies contain the consciousness of who and what we are. It's our struggle as to how we begin to define that. I still chuckle every time I look in the mirror. I'm looking at myself right now and I hear myself talking. And I'm going, well, you know, I remember a different me. In fact, hold on a second. When I'm doing these programs by myself, I can only talk to myself. I can't say, hey, y'all, pick up the conversation, would you? And, allow me to take this momentary pause. But so I get this reminder quite often, and I chuckle each day because it keeps me grounded into a lot of, well, who I am, the self-discovery that I'm on, and it's fascinating. So give me 1 second and I'll get back. So just so you can all have a good little chuckle, this is me. 5th grade, 10 years old. And, you know, it's the thing that we all are allowed to look back on this mighty privilege of a journey that we all get to share in. So I see that and I realize, and it helps put things into perspective. So yeah, there you go. But the soul that I see of that person there is still the one in here. And what a journey. That's all I've got to say. It's why we have these discussions. We talk about the things, magnetism, electricity, bodies, consciousness, all connected, all interacting, integrating with one another. It's yeah, I figured someone get a kick out of that anyway. Well, yeah, that kid that was still smiling back there, he's still smiling here, because you know what? Here's the thing, folks, and hear me on this. I found that child. I had lost him. And when you reconnect with that part of yourself, it changes you. It allows you to see things, from a different point of view. I think it allows us to see things from a higher point of view. Imagine if a person who's in, let's say, just having a very difficult time fighting depression. Sometimes I think they lost that child. I think if they can come back and find that child, particularly if a time before maybe let's say a hurt, someone inflicted pain and damaged that child. See, sometimes that child needs to be rescued by the older you. It's true. I think sometimes that the youth today, many 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s generation, they lost that child. And when you find them or her, you hug, you cry. Excuse me again. But what happens is that there's a healing. And I think that's part of the process. Because in one way, we're not that child, but every one of us still live in that child. So, all right. There you go. So I'm looking in here. Yes, Claudette, I absolutely do agree with you. I think so. Yeah. I think that's part of the healing process, is just finding that space. And Rocker Chick, well, why is that, dear? You see, the sadness is communicating something. It really is. And it's okay. I think there's a lot of that. I think that's probably one of the hindrances because we can't teach the youth today. The youth today is really not that much different than it was when I was growing up, 100 years, 1,000 years. I think they just are overstimulated, and that produces a lot more intensification of confusion. And they're struggling for understanding some things. And I'm hoping that this community here can begin to reach out and offer an opportunity for others of that generation. Yeah. I still see, when I see that 10-year-old, I just laugh. Cute kid. And he was, you know. So there we go, folks. Almost 1 o'clock my time. So I hope this has been interesting. I appreciate you coming in and the fact that we can share this time together. Um, y'all are some beautiful people, you know? Yeah, Angela, I'll agree with you on that. Yeah. Gila, I agree with you. We should start be growing to grill your food. In fact, I was just out today looking at that. Well, everyone, thank you. Tune in tonight if you want over in the Artist First Network. And going to be talking a little bit more on the 3 questions. Going to get a little bit more deeper on that. And I think, again, it's all part of the process. And as we share, we grow. Boy, I grow from y'all, a lot of y'all. You know, I'm just thankful that y'all come in because I learn so much from you, and it's great. All right, be good to yourself, hug yourself, and listen. If you can learn to hug yourself, then you can learn to hug others, and it really is something that I think that we just got to start being more gentler to ourselves. And I think with that, that'll spread. All right, folks, much love to you. We'll see you later. Peace and have a good one. We'll see you. Oh, tomorrow night. I almost forgot. Kick myself in the butt for that one. Tomorrow night, I have Sovereign Key coming on. Wadu is coming in, and I believe that's the correct pronunciation of the name. And we're going to share on some declarations of sovereignty, gaining and recontrolling ourselves, not allowing anyone or anything to trespass our sovereignty. I'm looking forward to it. She was supposed to be on 2 weeks ago, and things just didn't work out that way. So tomorrow night, and then the following Friday night will be Dr. Miller. So, folks, I appreciate you. We'll see you again real soon. All right, bye-bye.